Hi, welcome to Chicago Independent Television. I'm your host today, Mia Park, here on Chicago's famed and touristy Navy Pier. As you can see, in the wintertime, even Navy Pier's hibernating. The tourists are inside, people are resting. No one wants to be out here in the cold. But we're here in the cold to show you that there are many things to get heated up about in Chicago. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the upcoming March 20th Iraq War protest march down Michigan Avenue. We're going to cover farm workers who are protesting McDonald's. We'll be talking to Kyle Snyder, an Iraq War veteran who's now against the war. We'll be talking with student protesters in Washington, D.C., and we're going to be talking about the 5th year anniversary protests against Guantanamo Bay. So stay warm and stay tuned.
Bring the troops home now. Bring the troops home now. Bring the troops home now.
Stop funding war and occupation.
Stop funding war and occupation.
Bring the troops home now.
Bring the troops home now.
On Tuesday, March 20th.
On Tuesday, March 20th.
On Tuesday, March 20th, join us to protest
the 4th anniversary of the Iraq War.
The legal march, itself
a free speech victory, 4 years in the making, steps off at 7:30 p.m.
7:30 p.m. from Walton and State, down Michigan Avenue to Daley Plaza.
Down Michigan Avenue to Daley Plaza.
To learn more, call 773-536-0098.
Call 773-536-0098.
Or go to m20coalition.net.
That's the letter M, the number 2, 0, coalition.net.
See you in the streets.
See you in the streets.
See you in the streets.
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. Tuesday, March 20th, 2007 will mark the 4th anniversary of the start of the Iraq War. On that day, thousands of people will march down Chicago's Michigan Avenue through the North Loop. Their message: stop funding war and occupation and bring the troops home now. It took 4 years to win the legal rights to march through this high-profile and high-rent area, and is itself a victory of free speech in Chicago. The march will start at 7:30 p.m. at State and Walton and will proceed down Michigan Avenue to Daley Plaza. To learn more, call 773-536-0098 or visit www.m20coalition.net. See you in the streets. On January 27, 2007, close to 500,000 people joined in a major peace demonstration in Washington, D.C. During the event, the New Students for a Democratic Society called for an assembly of student groups. This assembly then approached the steps of the Capitol building where there was a confrontation with police. What follows is a report of this action filed by a Chicagoan who was there.
Students for Democratic Society, SDS, had called for a student bloc to assemble in front of the Smithsonian. This bloc was comprised of CAN, the Campus Anti-War Network, World Can't Wait, and a variety of other affiliated groups. We all came to some sort of agreement and met up with a lot of the other more radical groups, including Black Bloc from DuPont Circle. This contingent formed and decided to march toward the Capitol.
You occupy! What are we gonna do? Resist or die! Whose capital? Our capital! 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 When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Peace! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Peace! When do we want it? Now!
say repeat after me and we'll all repeat.
Hold on, which way is that way?
Okay.
Repeat after me!
Repeat after me!
SDS to the left!
SDS to the left!
Repeat after me!
Repeat after me!
SDS to the left!
SDS to the left!
People's revolution! Direct action! Lock up! Smack the police state! Smack the police state!
SDS decided to leave the confrontation and join the rest of the march. So we assembled down in front of the steps to discuss this possibility.
Where are you?
All right, we'll do a fist and a thumbs down, all right? Fist, go to the march as a contingent. Thumbs down.
You're the SDS guy with the megaphone. Turn off your megaphone!
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, listen up. I'm sorry. That'd be authoritarian of me. Shut up and get on the stand. We're obviously pretty radical. So we want to go show to some people that aren't, because if we want to build a movement, we got to have more people than this. All right? So maybe we can go talk to some people, recruit, show them how great SDS is and the various other groups that are with us, and how great every individual is. Yeah, you can always break off, just... Yeah. But honestly, I'm sick of these cops with the guns.
This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! The only war we're fighting for is class war! The only war we're fighting for is class war! The only war we're fighting for is class war!
You're watching Chicago Independent Television. Does AT&T hate poor people? To find out, we asked a media activist and a stuffed walrus.
Well, AT&T is trying to set up their version of cable TV.
Hate poor people! I think AT&T hates everybody!
But AT&T doesn't want to have to pay for public access channels or community media centers which are used by poor people.
I heard that AT&T lobbyists drown kittens!
They don't want to have to pay for building out infrastructure to poor neighborhoods.
And they drown them in toilets filled with acid!
They tried to push through laws in Congress to get what they want, but citizens rose up to block that.
One lobbyist even has Telly Savalas' brain in a jar in his desk!
So they're going state by state to try to do the same thing, and have succeeded in 14 states already.
Or he has Telly Savalas' brain in a toilet with acid and dead kittens!
They could be coming to your state soon.
AT&T tells everyone to go suck it!
So does AT&T hate poor people? I think the answer is clear.
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. In January of 2007, Chicago activists marked the 5th anniversary of the opening of the prison camp at Guantanamo Bay with a protest at Federal Plaza. Indie media videographers were there to show us what happened.
Guantanamo has got to go! Guantanamo has got to go! Guantanamo has got to go!
On January 11th, 2002, 20 hooded and shackled men shuffled off a plane from Afghanistan, arriving at the U.S. prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. In an attempt to sidestep the Geneva Convention protections for prisoners of war, the Bush administration created a new category of enemy combatant for these men captured in the War on Terror. Since that time, more than 1,000 men and boys have been imprisoned at Guantanamo. Accounts of cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment have been condemned by the United Nations, Human Rights Watch, and other reputable bodies. The prisoners have resorted to hunger strikes as a way of protesting their treatment. Many have attempted suicide. 3 men killed themselves on June 10, 2006. Desperation, fear, and frustration mark their confinement.
Guantanamo has got to go! Guantanamo has got to go! Guantanamo has got to go! Guantanamo has got to go!
On the 5th anniversary of the opening of the U.S. prison in Guantanamo, Cuba, demonstrations were held across the country and here in Chicago. I'm John Groot for Chicago Independent Television. The protest, organized by the 8th Day Center for Justice and the Christian Peacemakers team, included a rally and march and was successful in occupying the lobby of the Dirksen Federal Building downtown. Eventually, Chief Judge James F. Holderman of the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois came down to receive a writ of habeas corpus from the protesters. He responded by stating that while he also had concerns about Guantanamo, it was out of his jurisdiction. Activists from Chicago Indie Media were on the scene, and here is some of what happened.
Right now is a desperate time for the men, for the 435 men in Guantanamo. They no longer even have the right to ask why they're there. The writ of habeas corpus has been taken away from them. This goes against everything we have ever believed in as Americans. And today we're saying a resounding no. We're tired of civil liberties being taken away. And on the 5th, I remind you, the 5th anniversary of Guantanamo, these men, ages 20 on up, are still rotting away in Guantanamo Bay. They can't even see their lawyers anymore.
Just last night, we listened to the President of the United States call upon our country to send even more troops to Iraq, the new center of the stage of the so-called War on Terror. Yet nowhere in the President's speech were we reminded of Afghanistan and all of those who have suffered as a result of it. Indeed, Bush has spoke to us about resolving the violence in Iraq, but nowhere did he mention a far more silent violence, the violence being inflicted on the prisoners at Guantanamo Bay. To suffer in silence is the worst type of violence. It is worse in some ways than the extravagant violence that we see in Iraq. At least the noise of Iraq reminds us of the injustice and inhumanity of war. We feel compelled to stand and to denounce, at the very least, the injustice of America's occupation of Iraq. Indeed, the incessant stream of death, disaster, and dismay we see coming out of Iraq compel us not only to denounce this war, but to march and act out. Not to mention the Iraqis who have courageously stood up to assert their human rights. The war in Afghanistan is a different sort, however. Its victims have not been given voice by the mainstream media. We are not persistently provoked by those invaluable reminders as we are the case in Iraq.
Now today's demo's around Guantanamo, but we'd be remiss if we didn't also mention that we know that we have also bombed Somalia, that we know that our president spoke out on an escalation of the war, and we find these to be heinous acts and we oppose them. Our concentration remains on Guantanamo, but we are also in solidarity on those issues which deserve a demonstration of their own.
Hi, I'm Owen from the Working Bikes Cooperative, and you're watching Chicago Independent Television.